Okay, we're going to open this September 4th Planning and Zoning meeting. First thing on the agenda today is approval of the meeting minutes from the August 7th, 2025 regular meeting. Has everyone reviewed? And does anyone have any corrections that we need to recommend? If not, then I would entertain a motion on the approval of the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
And a second. All in favor, raise your hand. All right. So we're going to move into the public hearing phase, and 2A has been withdrawn, so we'll move on to 2B. Drew?
I'll give a quick introduction, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Lambert for his presentation. 2B is a sign variance for an LED sign larger than 32 square feet for the property addressed at 134 Camp Meeting Road, Kerrville, Texas, 78028, Lot 1R, Hosanna Lutheran Church Edition. Martin, can you switch to the other PowerPoint?
Yes, Clay Lambert, representing Hosanna Lutheran Church here today. It's interesting that thank you very much. It's interesting how many LED signs there are in Kerrville and how many businesses use them to advertise ongoing information. It's even more prevalent with churches. And it's more prevalent with Hosanna, and I'll explain why in a few minutes. Hosanna is located off of Highway 16, off on Camp Meeting Road, and there's no face there that shows that we are a church. It looks like some industrial complex far off of Highway 16. And so we wanted to find a way that we could get more messages about who we are and what we do and the programs that we have to the public. And that's what made us decide to look into getting an LED sign. This slide shows where the church is actually located in contrast to Highway 16. And you'll notice there's quite a large buffer there. The face of the church and the front door actually faces Camp Meeting Road, and there's several parking lots out there. The footage on Highway 16 is approximately 390 feet that we have for signage. The distance that we're going to have to put a sign away from Highway 16 is about 70 feet. And the reason for that is, here is a survey of the property. You will note where Highway 16 is, the edge of the pavement that's denoted by the red box on the far right-hand side. And then the blue line shows the very large TxDOT easement from that highway to the edge of our property. But even at that, there's a 14-foot utility easement. It's immediately adjacent to the TxDOT easement, and together those place a constraint on us that's immovable, that we have to have our sign 70 feet off the road. Whoop, hit the back button there, sorry about that. So we thought, well, how are we going to make this happen? And what do we need? And we erected a mock-up of a 32-foot sign, which is a standard piece of plywood, 4x8, and put it into position 70 feet off the road, and scribbled a few messages on it and found out that for the most part it was unreadable, just totally unreadable. So we thought, well, since we have the constraint of being 70 feet off the road, let's go take a look at other signs in town and just grab a bunch of random signs as we drive around, measure the distance of those signs from the edge of the pavement. This Excel chart shows what we found out there. There's 14 different locations that we measured, and the average distance from the sign to the road was basically 12.5 feet, 12.6 feet. Of course, the one outlier there is the Tivy Stadium. They've got 72 square feet on their sign, or 72, and it's 40 feet off the road. So Whether that came about by someone realizing the distance from the road, or whether it was just something that they said, well, let's give a giant sign to the stadium in Tybee, I don't know. But it is there. We excluded it in this write-up. So the average signs are 12 and a half feet off the road. Now, in the earlier information that I sent you, you saw the calculations where we went through and we said, okay, if a 32-foot sign is here, what size sign 70 feet away gives you the same readability? And the answer to that was a little bit shocking. As a matter of fact, the sign would have to be 12 and a half feet, it would have to be 5.8 times larger and have a surface area of 186 square feet to have the same readability 70 feet away that one would have only 12 and a half feet from the pavement. Well, of course, that's out of the question. Beyond anything else, such a sign of that size would probably never be approved, and it also went way beyond any financial constraint that the church has. So at that point, we said, all right, maybe we're going to have to go for a waiver, but let's see if we can find a sign that's affordable that will do at that location. So we looked a few things up. We found one, the dimensions of which are in there. It was about 55 square feet. It's 5.25 feet by 10.5 feet, considerably smaller than the Tybee sign. And we put another mock-up there. And we found that if we increased the font size on the sign, for example, and this is just hypothetically, if a 32 square foot sign would allow you to put 6 rows or 8 rows of text on it, we could have it readable if we put 4 rows of text on it on the sign of this size 70 feet away. So we found that it was workable. It wasn't perfect, but it was workable. And again, the reason that we really want to go forward with this and hope that you assist us in that process is because one of the main ways that churches get visitors and people to attend their programs is by having signs such as this that illustrate to the public what's going on. I'm told that the readership of the Kerrville Daily Times is approximately 3,000 and that the Community Journal is approximately 3,500. And in a county of over 50,000 people, you'd have to spend a lot of money not knowing which people you're going to hit and which ones you're going to miss. But a signage of this type with the travels up and down Highway 16 would afford us a much better opportunity to take advantage of that. With regard to close proximity of other properties, this is the original slide that I put together, which shows the closest house over across the street and down some in River Hills. I can't read the print from here, but the other house in the lower left-hand corner is over 400 feet away. Well, then I was advised here this afternoon that there had been one response, a negative response, with regards to our desire to put the sign up. And so I went and took a look at the particular house that that individual lived in, and I found that the only thing exposed to the street is a garage. And if you look at the insert in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the red arrows show that in order to reach the front door of the house, you have to leave the driveway, turn to the left, and go down a long pathway until you get to the front door of the house. That corridor cannot see the sign. It's impossible. And that's my comment on that. So, basically, to recap everything, we have some readability issues. that we can't solve unless we have a larger sign. And it would take one 5.5 times the size of the 32 square feet to equal the same visible resolution at that distance. We're not asking for that. We tested a sign at 32 square feet, found it not to work. The letters that are 4 inches high on such a sign would need to be 23 inches high on a sign at 70 feet away. Well, that's, this paper right here is 11.5 inches, so you're looking at basically twice that to have it readable from the street. At 70 feet, just as another way of looking at that, 70 feet from the street, the apparent surface area would be 9.53 square feet. That's 32 feet that's visible from the road, placed that far away, would be only 9.5 square feet. So Hosanna's building is indistinguishable as a church, which makes it more relevant that we have signage there saying what's out there beyond that point. The LED sign would give us the ability to notify the community of any special events that we have. And a church is fairly active, and we have a number of things that people in the community just aren't aware of. Hopefully, and it's been proven with other churches in the past, that such signage is very good at capturing people's attention and having them come in and take a look and see what the community is all about. We believe that this waiver request is justified because there's nothing we can do about the 70-foot setback. It's a total hard constraint. The calculations that we provided you in detail prove that there's less visual impact than we have. And the closest residence is almost a football field away. And it seems that their garages are facing the sign anyway. So with that, we believe that our request fully complies with the ordinance. And in addition to that, I just received today your handouts, which are letters from the Stewart Sign Company attesting to the fact that all the various provisions that the city has for the sign can be and will be met. So with that, I'll leave it open to questions.
Is there anyone here to speak for the public hearing, Drew?
I didn't get anyone signed up.
So we'll open the public hearing at 4:13, and if there is no one to speak, then we'll close the public hearing. And I have no questions. Does anybody have any questions?
I just, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Ladies first.
I just had a quick question. I had read in here about the dark sky. So what is the plan in the evenings? Are y'all gonna adjust that or?
Yes,
What is
per
that?
the ordinance on all signage in town, whenever dusk comes and the twilight gets down, the signs automatically have photocells and they automatically reduce the brightness. What looks reasonable during the daytime and readable can be way too bright at night, too much glare. This sign has those provisions built into it.
You currently have a sign that's readable from the north and south directions. What's the fate of that sign?
We have a sign located close to Camp Meeting Road
Okay.
because there's nothing there to illustrate that they're a church. And basically that sign says, Hosanna here. So it's a guide to tell people to turn in on Camp Meeting Road. It's kind of a V-shaped sign,
Right.
so tall.
You plan on keeping that sign?
Well, it would be necessary that we keep it for the fact that the LED sign will have other information on it, and it can't, from its location, go, please turn on this road over here. Also, if you're coming from 16 South, the home that I showed in the lower left-hand corner of that, there's a lot of foliage right there on 16. And so suddenly you break through that foliage, and if it wasn't for that sign saying, turn here for Hosanna, I think people would miss it.
Anybody else?
Commissioners,
Questions?
if I may, the sign code, it limits the property to one monument sign, so the existing sign would have to be taken out. But we can certainly work with the church on a directional sign placed on the property to serve that same purpose, showing where where to turn for the church. That wouldn't be a monument sign, but a smaller directional sign to show where to turn.
Well, what would the size of that sign be?
I do not recall off the top of my head. I'll have to look.
Okay. Our preference would be to keep the sign at the entrance there by Camp Meeting Road. Now, in favor of that, I would say that the LED sign is going to broadcast who we are, programs that we have, times for worship, etc. It is not an indicator of where to turn to go into the church. That sign that's currently there has been there for, someone told me, 20 years, maybe 19 or 20 years.
I don't know what the size is, but the ordinance is the ordinance, and I don't think you're only allowed to have one billboard type or monument sign. So that's not an issue for this. Well, that's not what we're discussing. That would be a separate issue, so
Okay.
just as long as you're aware of.
Right.
And I can, Mr. Lambert, I can get you that information. We can talk through that.
All right, so we'll leave that separate for a different time, different
Yes, sir.
venue.
Yes.
Hey Drew, do they allow signs for churches like they do for wineries, like coming up, it's on the left, you know? And
Off-premise
Directional sign
signs.
they do, but not a monument sign.
Right.
so
Yeah, so like the highway signs that you see, showing specific locations, TxDOT does have some provisions. That doesn't fall within our sign code, because those are actually TxDOT signs. For those informational signs where you've got, certain business or a winery, turn here, but those are actually through TxDOT.
Does TxDOT charge for those, or do you know?
I do not know. I can get you a contact for TxDOT too, to look into that as well.
Are you aware of the speed limit there on 16 in front of where the church is?
Yes, is it 55 or 60?
It's 55.
55, yeah.
Okay.
I'll go through the findings real quick. What's in your packet is from Mr. Lambert. He went through the trouble to fill out all of the findings. I'll go through and kind of confirm just staff perspective on those same comments. The exceptional circumstances, as he mentioned, there is significant right-of-way. Maybe. There we go. Typical city street from back of curb to the property line is 10 feet. On this TxDOT frontage, you saw that it's significantly more than that, plus the 14-foot easement. So it is unique in that stance that they are 70 feet away from pavement instead of 10 or 12, as you showed a lot of the other signs in town are.
So basically, their church is not on 16, right, correct?
They,
It's on
they have
Kent
frontage
Meeting
on
Creek.
16, but
Huh?
they're addressed, yeah, they do have frontage on 16, but they're addressed to Camp Meeting Creek because that's the access point. If they wanted to work with TxDOT, they could potentially get an access point on 16 because they do have frontage there. But the sign cannot be placed in that utility easement, and it cannot be placed in the TxDOT right-of-way.
Okay.
So they have a significant setback that most properties don't have.
For the record, we did contact TxDOT to ask them numerous fixes or opportunities or leasing or whatever, and the answer was no, 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 and no.
That sounds right. Similarly, city sign code says you can't have a sign in the right-of-way either, and in the city right-of-way.
Sure.
So, granting is not in the contrary to the public interest. It does not, it's not contrary to the objectives in the comprehensive plan. The variance, as he mentioned, is the minimum necessary for them to accomplish their needs. Again, he's not asking for 5 times the sign, just 55 square feet roughly. It's not associated with any new development, not based on the subdivision of the property. It's not self-imposed, but again, the TxDOT right-of-way. Does not make the property any more profitable. It does not repeal any other development standards. Does not constitute a change in zoning. And I'm missing one. The sign itself would not be prohibited. It's just the size of the sign that they're requesting. So with that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Anybody else have any comments before we?
Like your presentation and how prepared you were.
Yes, that was a lot of information.
Comments? I understand your hardship. The city went through a pretty substantial sign ordinance revision a couple of years ago. And this is what we came up with as far as a suitable size of an LED sign for signs within the city limits, which I tend to think is good. We've already been approached twice for variances on signs, which have been turned down. We actually, this whole thing got started back several years ago when Calvary Temple Church, who has a monument sign on 16, requested a large LED sign, which was turned down, and this is why we kind of reviewed the ordinance. I mean, I have a couple of issues. My first issue is that the purpose of the ordinance is not to see LED lighted billboard signs, all over town. We have a lot of developments that are gonna come up on 16 in the future, down closer towards 10. And I think that it's a good ordinance. I understand your hardship with where you guys are with where the sign would have to be. And I actually have even bigger concern with trying to put a message sign on a 55-mile-an-hour highway with people going 55 miles an hour both way, with a flashing billboard sign out there with messages on it that people will be trying to read going both ways. I think that presents a safety issue. That's my perspective. Those are my comments.
I'd like to address that, if you will.
Sure.
I think you can see this on advertisements on TV and everything nowadays. I don't know if it's the 20-something generation that's doing this, but nothing exists there for more than a fraction of a second. It's just turmoil. It's things jumping and jumping. That is, first of all, there's in the ordinance, it says things have to be there at least 6 seconds. But anyone that's wise will look at that and say, okay, we've got a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit here. We need to post something on the sign that's very readable and leave it there. Maybe 20, 30, 40 seconds. Plenty of time for any approaching vehicle to go way past it and not be distracted with movement. And that would be our intent. So I realize what you're saying. And it could be a problem if someone did that with a sign, because it's a distraction and now you're seeing this and you're not watching the road. But our intent would be to have a fixed, readable message that sits there for a good duration. And if that is something that you would like us to guarantee, or to say that we'd have each message there at least 30 seconds or something, we'd be more than happy to accommodate you on that.
That would kind of, that's not in the ordinance, so that would not be something we could.
You could apply conditions to it, since it is a variance, kind of opens the door to some of that discussion. If a longer page time kind of solves some of the traffic concerns. On the flip side, I think that, to Mr. Lambert's point, if the text is too small, it's just as dangerous because people are trying to read it.
Would you be putting a
Correct.
sign up regardless? Let's say this was not approved. Would you be putting one up within the ordinance that may be harder for people to read?
No, if this is not approved, the 32 square foot sign, if that's what you're asking, absolutely will not work. No, we'll be shut down. We won't have the features and the capabilities that this will bring. And already we're stretching it dollar-wise. So, but there's a number of sign companies that cater not only to businesses, but they kind of specialize in churches. And they have statistics that show the benefits of these signs and what they bring in as far as visitors, new members, donations, that sort of thing. So we're hoping to take advantage of that, especially because of the way that we're located so far off the road and facing Camp Meeting, not facing 16. So people driving by have no idea that it's a church except for our sign that says Hosanna this way, currently.
I do think coming from the opposite direction, having that level of visibility would be a good thing. Because he's right, when you're coming from the other direction, you do not see it until you're on it, and then you've missed the road completely. So you would have
Well, I
to
don't,
turn and go back. But I-
that's not my point is not that you're missing the road to turn in. My point is it's a lighted message sign
Mhm.
that's, 60, basically 55 square feet. That, it's just human nature. You can, you can put it, you can make it still, you can move it, you can do whatever you want, but people driving by will tend to, their eyes will catch it. And listen, it's just my thoughts on it. I'm, as everyone knows, I'm not a big fan. I think once we open the ordinance, the variance door on signs, we just got through turning down the county for a sign that was basically the same thing. And, I'm just not a fan of, this is what the city felt like was a good ordinance. This is the size we as the city felt like was, if the city would have felt like a 5 by 10 or a 6 by 12 would have been reasonable, then that's what the sign ordinance would say. But the sign ordinance says 4 by 8, so.
And I agree that for the average distance that these signs are located within town, it's perfectly big enough. And there's no reason to get one bigger.
Well, and I appreciate your situation, but that was really not even part of I was on the ordinance review committee. It was the size of the sign and the amount of the message and the light and everything else
Yeah.
it wasn't about how far, 70 feet or 20 feet. And I understand you guys do have a bit of an issue, by trying to put up that type of a sign, but anyway, that's my thoughts.
I agree with you. Just based upon the previous discussion that we had with the county, and I wasn't here for that meeting, but I know that this commission did what they did, and so I think if we vary from that, then we're opening ourselves up to some ridicule and setting a precedence because of the issue of light pollution, which has, I think, not as much to do with the distance from the road. We're literally talking about the square footage of the sign,
And
that's where I have a hard time
That was
with
one
it.
of the major factors in the size of the sign. When we went, we discussed it. We discussed a 6 by 12. We discussed a 5 by 10. We discussed a 4 by 8, and I think that the consensus is that's plenty of light. And for you guys, unfortunately, it's not. But, the next person that comes in here that's gonna look for a variance to put a larger sign they're not gonna care about the distance, honestly. So,
When that ordinance was done, was there a distance attached to that?
no.
No, it was looking at generally citywide. Again, most of your city right-of-way is typically 10 to 12 feet. It's
It
pretty
was more
standard.
concerned with, like Tabor says, it was concerned with the light pollution more than it was anything else.
So one way to look at that might be to say it overlooked the distance factor.
Well, I
Because if you-
don't agree with you. I don't think it overlooked the distance
If I was
factor.
to put 3 lines of text on this here, which you could read, do you think you could read it from here or
It's-
maybe another 10 feet?
It's not about the reading of the text. It's about the amount of light. And I understand, I sympathize with you. I understand your situation. But the ordinance was not about reading. It really wasn't, because if it was just about reading, heck, we would have probably approved a 6 by 12. It's about the amount. It was several factors, including city not wanting to have 100 LED lighted signs around town, which I don't think we're gonna get anyway, but that was part of it. And the other part of it is that a 4 by 8 foot, 32 square foot lighted sign is pretty substantial.
Okay, you're aware of the fact, though, that the proposed sign, the brightness of it is completely controllable. day or night.
I'm aware of everything that you're saying. And
So,
again,
The brightness could be turned down just to the point where it's readable. It doesn't have to be full blast. So if brightness was an issue, I just want to let you know it is totally adjustable throughout its entire range.
I think honestly, and I agree, again, I understand, we're talking about the size of the sign that opens up. Like I say, the county just came to us wanting to put a sign that was, I think, 6 by 12, which is a little bit bigger than the sign you're talking about. And we discussed it and we unanimously turned it down because it doesn't meet the ordinance. And they had a pretty compelling argument about trying to, advertise the youth exhibit center for business.
Well, my biggest agreement with you is the distance is significant for them, so.
Could a provision be put in where it met the amount of brightness that for the night skies, that a sign that is approved?
Yes.
Can we police that, though?
I gotta tell you something, you're getting, and again, you're getting into something the sign ordinance was not created for. The sign ordinance was created for, among other things, the size of the sign. And when you start trying to talk about dimming it at a certain time or trying to control the amount of light, when you say we're only gonna have the amount of light coming out of a 5.5 by 10-foot sign that would come out of a 4 by 8, that's a hard thing to do. I mean, and again, that's not the purpose of the sign ordinance itself, honestly, in my opinion.
Yes, we can police it. Shriner University actually has the tool to measure the brightness of signs. They've offered it to us at our needs anytime we need it. One of their professors did a study of all the LED signs in town, or I say all, quite a few of the LED signs in town. I think they found one or two that were brighter than they should be based on the dark sky ordinance. So most of them in town do meet those requirements. And then on top of that, the software with the new technology on these signs is completely controllable, so we can obviously work with the church to make sure it's programmed properly. And again, I think on the sign code, the variance process is built in for cases like this that does have a hardship. For the commission to weigh in and figure out, does this hardship justify the expansion of the size? And they are case by case, so
Yeah,
Just comparing it to the county.
Like you said, case by case, and they're 70-foot variance, I think there should be exceptions at points.
yeah, the county didn't have that setback requirement. They're 12 or 14 feet, I think, off back of curb for where they're located. So visibility or readability of 32 feet wasn't really the issue for the county. So I wouldn't say that it necessarily opens the door to any variance. If you find another property that's 70 feet back, you could make the same argument. But just for any business to come in and say they got a bigger sign and we want one, I think you've got room to make that decision case by case, if that makes sense.
That's why we're here, right?
Well, I think if we could do that we make sure you're within the night sky and you're making sure the words are staying on the screen longer, it would satisfy something for me. I just think the distance from the road is significant for them.
And we're more than happy to comply with that.
All right, does anybody else have any comments? If there are no other comments, then I will entertain a motion on the sign variance.
I make a motion that we pass it, but with the two stipulations of the night sky and how long wording is on the screen.
We have a motion.
How long are you proposing?
How long did you say you could do it? How many seconds? Do we know what the distance to drive that? That's basically so that whoever's passing, it's not changing during their drive.
What we can do is,
I can find some formulas that break that down as far as
Calculate.
visibility based on the frontage.
well, we can drive by at 55 miles an hour, and from when we first initially see where the sign's going to be until we're totally past it and figure out what that timing is.
Mhm.
But currently, the ordinance says you can't have images there shorter than 6 seconds. And I'm thinking it's gonna be more like 20.
I think 20 is plenty long for driving at 55.
Oh, yeah.
I would think so.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
I'll think it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed?
Okay.
All right, this motion fails. Doesn't mean you can't go to city council. You can, you know, appeal to city council based on continuing to move forward with your sign variance request.
I see. And is there a particular procedure for that?
I'll get with you tomorrow.
We can give it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time.
Yes, sir, thank you. It was a very good presentation.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, we'll give you a shot tomorrow. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Next meeting's October 2nd. And then, although he's not here, I want to give a thank you to John Lovett for his time on the board. He had to resign from the board. He's got some personal things that are going to take him away from several meetings back to back, and he didn't want to put that burden on you guys. So we do have an open spot. If you have any friends that you think would be good volunteers, by all means, encourage them to apply through the city secretary's office.
Anything else, anybody?
That's all I have. Anything from you guys?
Anything else, guys? All right, we're adjourned.
Well, Miss John.